Okie dokie. Okay, that was a little stressful. Sorry about that interruption, people. It's our own fault. We, some people moved out of the neighborhood. The cat started coming around, and like softies, we started feeding the cat. And let's see here. Yeah, so I want to actually extend this. Done. It would be not good for kitty. Not good for kitty. Okay, now all of this, let's see here. Yeah, we want to get rid of all this. Basically, we just want Vespar to stand there. Let Tobias do the talking. So pretty much that should be our shot right there, I expect. We don't want to get too crazy and creative here. We want to just keep it simple. So, hey Ashnan, I again am probably saying your name wrong. I said save because I'm doing save scene as right now. Oh, the irony of it all. Okay, so anyway, like I said, sorry about that interruption, folks. 193, so this is going to be 195. It looks like we're back to finally normalized naming conventions here, so we should be able to change our output settings to scene number 195 render, and it is pings, and I'm just going to go ahead and render it, and hopefully, see, look at that. You see that right there? Tahoma appears to be inserting an underscore. Okay, that's what we call a bug. And it's my fault because one time on one scene, a completely different scene, a completely different day, completely running Tahoma 3 or 4 or 5 different times since I did it. But one time I added an underscore to the file name. You don't see any underscores here, but yet it appears that Tahoma is now forever and for all time going to insert an underscore in my file names. Utter and complete insanity. Yep, there's the old, and there's the new, sure enough. So Tahoma will not accept the correct, and the problem is, if I put a period, maybe that'll work. Actually, maybe that'll work. I'm going to just speculate that this is actually normal behavior. I'm going to take a risk and assume that it is. So what I'm going to do, okay, so what do I mean by normal behavior? In other words, here's what might be happening. So we're just going to go with this theory. The theory is that if you have a name of a file that's numeric and you don't have a period in there, maybe it just inserts the underscore for you. And I just never realized it was going to do that. That is possible. So now we're going to re-render, and see, look, according to the dialog, it's still sticking the underscore in, but now it's also putting in a period. I mean, that stupid problem right there is, I know this sounds anal and ridiculous probably to many of you guys out there, but that is almost a deal buster for me. That's almost a like, I don't even want to use the software. Because that means every freaking time I ever render a scene that was rendered previously, instead of doing what Krita does, where it just overwrites it, yeah, now this is gone and I need to reinsert it into the program, or into the timeline. Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing, but it's just so ridiculous. I mean, animation software, going back for as long as there's been software, tends to deal with what? Image sequences, right? If there's one thing that the software should be absolutely bulletproof on. Never get wrong. It's file naming, which means you cannot rely on Tahoma to actually, why do we even have output settings if Tahoma's not going to actually respect the output settings? It's insanity. I mean, it's frightening because it makes you step back and go, there's no way that the developers actually use the software. They can't. They cannot possibly be using the software. Because if they did, they would bump into this problem. OMG. Wow. And I'm going to save my timeline. There it is. No, that's the old one. Nope, that's that one. Okay, sorry. I'm actually confused on my file names now. Okay, Control Z. Control Z. Stop. Back up. This was 195. 195. I have to put this up on the other screen so I can see really clearly the file names. Wow. So, until a few days ago, when I inserted, like an idiot, just one time inserted an underscore in a file name in Tahoma, before that day, I just render. Everything worked fine. It would overwrite the old image sequence and everything would update in my Vegas, my editing timeline. It would be rendered, done. Now it's render, go delete the files that are obsolete, re-import it into the program, wonder why it's not quite working, back and forth. What used to take 30 seconds now takes 3 minutes. And when you have 800 shots, it starts to add up. Man, so stupid. Okay, that shot that I repeated. Okay, we need to make one change here. I'm a little bit frazzled because of the stupidity I'm dealing with right now with the software, unfortunately. Okay, that allows his mouth to close. So now we'll hit Control-Shift-R and re-render it, and everything should be a-okay. So once we have the, once we have adopted the convention of just accepting the fact that Tahoma does not know how to name files, because by the way, it's still wrong. It's still wrong. The dialog that just did the render showed a period I'm going to save and render again just to see if I'm insane. No. Okay, so what it's showing me is underscore period only because there's 4 digits inserted after the underscore. But as far as I can tell, again, if you're around, Darren, I welcome you to weigh in on this. There's nothing I can see other than an act of God that's going to get Tahoma to quit inserting underscores in my file names now that I did it one time. Absolutely pathetic. Okay, so we're going to keep going here. Now this was a repeat in the past, and it'll probably work as a repeat again. Not 100% sure of that, but we'll give it a crack. Just because his line of dialogue is pretty close to the same length as the other one. All right, so what did we have here? Okay, if we ran this in reverse, it wouldn't quite do the trick because of the lip sync. So files, I guess I saved all a minute ago, so let's just go ahead and go back to shot number 193. No, I gotta check my timeline. I gotta go back to 193D. I'm looking forward to, before too long, being through these shots that all have like A, B, C, D tagged onto the file number. Once we get through that, it'll be a little less confusing. Okay, I'm moving my word processor around so I can see my script and also see my the live stream stuff. It's doing that because your output name is a number. It's to separate the 4-digit image sequence numbers from your name, I think. Well, that's what I thought too. However, again, I can say with absolute confidence that I went for months using Tahoma where this was never an issue. It became an issue once I inserted an underscore one time. So if we were going to try to correct that, you would think the solution would be to go into our render settings, and keep in mind too, for the longest time I never used the output settings. I like the fact that you can bake the output settings into the Toonz file, right? So what should happen is if I put a period in here, I should get the old behavior, which is it'll save it as an image sequence. What it's going to do is add, it's still showing the underscore. It's still showing the underscore. And if I come up here, things are definitely updating. Okay. So as far as I can tell, it's basically doing the Blender thing. It's doing the Blender thing, which is, in Blender, if you put in a file name that ends with a dot because you want a dot before the 4-digit image sequence number, Blender will replace it with an underscore unless you go into the actual, not the browser, but you actually edit the text and change it back to a period. It will respect that. Tahoma apparently won't. So that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say, well, yeah, okay, from now on with Tahoma, we're doing underscores. Well, that's fine for a while. The problem is that I have literally hundreds of image sequences that might get re-rendered from Tahoma that used to have periods. And again, this was never a problem till about 2 days ago. Yeah, you're right. You guessed right. I'm going to just roll over and accept it and live with the underscore. Because that's what we actually do in the real world, is we live with it. Okay. So now what I wanted to do here was essentially reverse this motion. So he's starting out here, so we might as well just take this key, pop it up there. This is a duplicate, but that's fine because what we want to do is, okay, we want to get the first 4 frames to not change. And then I just want him to, actually that's what I want. So I'm going to move this down here. I think I'm going to delete this one and delete this one. I can always change them again. Yeah, I just want him to raise his head and say yes. Small mouth shape, so let's take these out. Control X. Control X. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so 10 is basically closed mouth, so I should be able to go Control X and then stretch this back down to here. Okay. File. This is not 193D. I better be careful here. Sheesh. $195, $198, $190. I'm gonna call this $196. Now I gotta be careful here. It looks like there is a 196 though. Yeah, that's right. This is 196. That's what we'll do. Okay, cool. File, save, scene as 196. I hope I didn't. I'm moving so fast I might have just saved over the other one. But we shall see. Render output settings. So here we got 32 frames. We're going to put this in 196. And just for fun, because we're stupid, I'm going to put a period in there and see what actually... See, I would just change the file names in the folder of the image sequence if it wasn't for the fact that once I do that, instantly Vegas can't find it anymore. It breaks my edit. Grr. Grr, people. Grr, I say. So we're just going to kind of live with it. I guess we'll live with it. So save and render. And from now on, we're going to... Look at that! Now it's putting a period in there. Oh my gosh. It's like, how do you get to be... No, it can't be. No. Okay. Yeah, it actually worked. Now, some of these images need to be deleted because the image sequence I'm rendering is a different length than the old one was, but now it goes back to period. There's no period or underscore. Why did it decide that now it wants to go back to period? I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. It's very, very vexing. Very vexing indeed. This is where I start getting giddy. When software is like so stupid that it's actually gotten to the point where it's funny. Because what we just saw is funny. That's like, how do you almost have to try to make the software that stupid. Sorry, folks, but that's the truth. Well, here's the dirty little secret that's revealed here, folks. And this is a sobering secret that most of you probably may not believe when I tell you, but here's the dirty little secret. It rendered it with a period, but the dialogue might be showing wrong. Okay, the dialogue might be showing wrong, but these are number, period, 4 digits. Exactly what I want. So I'm not going to mess with anything else. Going forward, we're just going to assume that Tahoma's going to keep doing the right thing. You know, there's no reason we can understand why it did the wrong thing. There's no reason we can understand why it's now doing the right thing. We don't care. Wow, that is so... It's creepy. But the dirty little secret I was going to tell you is this. The truth is, there are almost no people, almost 0 people on... Actually, that's surprising. It just is what it is. Okay, so he says, one might say Asher's the voice of the people. All right, so let me get this... Speak. One might say that Asher's the voice of the people. Yes. Well, is it blah 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 blah. Okay, so what he says is, he says yes. Surely the king must hear the voice, people's voice, in order to rule with wisdom. Yeah, that'll work. That voiceover will work in there. Okay, so now we got 196 here. E3. Okay, so now we're up to 198. Good. Now this has the old characterization of Vespigi, which really wasn't that different than what we're working with now, truthfully. But Golik's way off on that shot. It's like embarrassingly bad. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Huh. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what we're gonna do, folks. We are gonna redo 198. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna actually reverse this again and then add his arm in there. So we're gonna save as 198. Boom. Okay. So, man, I really... hey, Helion, Vegas is like 300. Yeah, it's I think that it's owned by Magix now. The version I used was Sony, but it's Magix. And I think you can get an entry-level version for like 50 bucks. If you really don't want to spend money on an editor, then obviously there's DaVinci, there's Hit Film Express, which is very capable despite, even in its free version. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to, yes. So we're going to reverse these two keys. We'll give them a little breathing time here. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to reverse these four keys. Let's see if we can do this. Let's delete those. Let's see if we can do it this way. Can we reverse these? Step each. Darren probably knows. What is the... I might have asked this the other day, so forgive me for being thick. But if you're there, Darren, do you know how do you just reverse the images, run them in the opposite order? Obviously, I could do it manually pretty quickly, but I'm just curious. Reframe with empty step. I thought there was a step to, or an option. Here we go. Edit cell numbers. Let's hold on a second. Okay, Darren, this is actually important. So if you're there, if you're not there, I'm going to do this manually. If you are there, you might want to weigh in. Okay. Okay, so here's my question, Darren, and this is a very important question. If there's any doubt in your mind, I'm not going to do it. Okay. So my question is this. Does it, in fact, activate the reversal by actually changing the cell numbers? Because if it actually renames the images, then it's going to break the other scenes that use the same image sequence, I would think. We could test it this way. He's got a scowl. Okay, so let's just test this. We can test it and switch it back if we have to. So it's it was edit cell numbers, reverse. So the first one was a scowl. Okay, so now he's going in the right order, but what we want to do is look at this. Okay, I agree with you. It's a terrible name. It did not change them in the actual image sequence, so that's good. All it did was change the numbers that are appearing in the X sheet. So here's the smile. Here's the scowl. Yeah, so it just reverses them in the X sheet. So that's good news. That's good news. Okay, thanks, man. I appreciate the help. Okay, good. Excellent. That's what we wanted. I just, this is a really important part of the workflow right now, is being able to reuse these image sequences in multiple shots. And so far, by making sure any duplicates or additional images are always added to the end of the list, I've avoided having any wacky stuff go on. So let me hit the play button. Okay, I want to go up here. Okay, and honestly, I think this should be gotten rid of. Control X. Boy, it's always a learning experience, isn't it? There's always something. Okay, so now what I want to play with here, let's go ahead and save this. This is 198. We can go ahead and save all. Everything's good. What we want to do now is he's kind of going like this, right? So that's kind of what we want to get to. Now, if he's going to do what he's doing, I think he probably should lean back as well. So when he has that reaction, he should lean back, right? Everybody agree? So he goes, That's perfect. Very subtle, very nice. File. Let's just save the scene. Don't need to save the pictures. Everything's been saved. Okay, sorry, when I said copies, I was thinking about the swing option, ping pong. Right, I understood that. Right. No, the act sheet is, or timeline, is so powerful that people can wrap their head creatively around the fact that the images are separate from the frames. Gives you a lot of power. It's really the opposite situation we have in Krita. In Krita, the image data is baked into the animation frames. And that has its advantage too. I often will control drag and just make a copy to change something, and then if it goes wrong, just delete the animation frame, right? In other words, I haven't damaged the only copy of the picture, right? Now you can accomplish the same thing more or less in Tahoma by just going into your image sequence and making a duplicate. Make a duplicate and then mess with that. Don't change the original. You will regret it. You will regret it. Ajax has a good question, and the short answer is yes. There is a software development kit and a bit of a framework for plugins, but I think primarily that would be for like rendering effects. And the scripting that's built into OpenToonz, which is basically a variant of JavaScript, essentially it's QScript, I believe is what they call it, but it's the variant of JavaScript that's built into Qt, which is what OpenToonz is built on. It's okay. It's not the most capable programming API ever, but I haven't explored it deeply either. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. Let's kill, and frankly, it would probably be a lot easier to do in Krita. Just to be masochists, we'll try it. So let's do it as a standard raster level. All right, and just if you want to be really smart about your work, and you don't want to clutter up your extras folder, this would be the place to go ahead and assign it an actual location, which in this case would be somewhere as a subfolder of 198. So I'd go to Scenes, go down to 198. I don't usually do this, but it is actually a cleaner way to work. And I don't even think we need to create a subfolder, frankly. Okay, so I hit choose, and nothing happened. I hit choose again, and nothing happened. Okay. We've been talking about bugs today, haven't we? Yeah. So I guess what that is telling us is we want to actually just choose the folder 196. We don't want to go into it. You don't, or 198. You don't go into a folder unless you're going to create a new folder and then choose that. So that's going to work as expected. Okay. Okay, cool. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. So now what we're going to do is, should we sketch it? Hit the B key. Okay. So what I'm looking for is steepling. Steepling. That's what we're. In fact, I'm going to take his. I'm going to take him and turn his opacity down. Oh boy, it makes a silhouette. That's interesting. Didn't see that coming, but that's okay. Not a deal breaker. Okay, we're just going to use our sketch brush, if you will, to get the hands in there. And I'm going to do this the way that I've become most comfortable with drawing, which is I just draw what I can see in my head, and I don't draw what I can't see yet. And what happens is I start seeing it as it go along. Okay, give this boy some cuffs, and then we're going to extend this down here. Okay, that worked. So what's going to happen here is we'll put this something like here, and we're going to hit the animate tool, and just to be perfectly sensible about it, we probably should center it somewhere down here, kind of ostensibly where his elbows might be, just in case you wanted to allow it to rotate some. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be careful to insert a position key, so I'm just going to wiggle it a little bit, and I'm going to insert a rotation key, because otherwise I know that Tahoma will suffice to say that anything I want to animate, or that I think I'm going to want to animate, I want to go ahead and insert a keyframe. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get to his starting position, and then we'll run it in reverse. So that definitely, I mean, the farthest down his elbows could really get is something like that. So let's just see if this works. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, let's give it a crack. So what I'm going to do is, I know that's a little hokey, but we probably only want this to be on 4 frames anyway. So what I'm going to do is say, insert that like that, put that there. Okay, I'm going to say, hey, Maria's saying hello. Happy Monday, in and out as always, right on. Okay, so, okay, and I will say that, honestly, my sense is that the whole thing should be moved up north so that it works in conjunction with his body move. Maybe just lagged by a frame or two. Okay, so now what we got to do is just go in here and fix this. But I don't know where Jeremy has this option hidden. In OpenToonz, it's got a strange title for automatically creating new drawings. Probably under the drawing, right? Okay, here we go. Here we go. Enable auto creation. For now, I'm going to turn that off. That way I can draw in this particular frame and, or you know, drawing, and not have it booger things up. Excuse me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this brush and I'm going to sample this oops. Okay, yeah, I better turn that off for the moment. So now, okay, Darren, you saw it. You just saw it. OMG. Okay, guys, I want you guys to know what just happened. Okay? I want you to know what just happened, because Look at all the bugs we're finding. Ajax asked earlier, what's more stable, OpenToonz or Tahoma? I will honestly tell you guys, I didn't really want to say it this emphatically earlier when he asked the question, but my honest opinion is that Tahoma actually has probably a lot more bugs than OpenToonz. I don't know that it does, but I seem to bump into a lot more erratic behavior and instability and just stupidity with Tahoma than I ever did with recent versions of OpenToonz. So what just happened? Well, I went into my preferences and I turned off auto creation. Why? Because what I specifically wanted is that if I start drawing in this level, it will not create a new drawing, but simply keep changing the one drawing that's already in the level. So I turned all auto creation off. Thinking I can go in here and now I can paint over this and I'll be able to see the drawing behind it if I want to, and everything will be groovy. And in fact, what we see is something, by the way, that I never saw in OpenToonz. Okay, yeah, so now Darren's going to tell us that Tahoma is more stable. Okay, that's the problem. Everybody has different opinions. In fact, when I think it was Ajax who asked the question, the whole reason he asked the question is because he's found OpenToonz to be less stable as well. So I have to respect that. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, I turned off enable auto creation, but that doesn't turn off auto creation. Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Turning off enable auto creation does not, in fact, turn off auto creation. I should have known that. Okay, but the three, oh, okay, yeah. So if you want to turn off, so this, okay, right. Okay, so I think what Darren is saying is actually if you want to turn it off, you have to turn off all of these and this, right? Okay, it did not work that way in OpenToonz, any version of OpenToonz I ever used. If you turned off, it had a stupid name admittedly in the menu. It had a stupid name. Maybe they changed it in recent versions. I don't remember. I don't even have OpenToonz on my system anymore. Okay, so now what should happen? Okay, now it's behaving correctly. So you cannot just disable auto creation. You have to disable each of the sub options of auto creation, and then also disable enable auto creation. It could be that if we disable the 3 tick boxes under enable auto creation, but don't disable enable auto creation, that it would no longer auto create. Wow. Well, the first part of today's live stream, which I just deleted because I spent the whole hour really just getting up and running, was pretty much about this type of stuff. So we might as well just, you know what? Let's just be, you know, let's just get crazy here. Let's leave enable auto creation on, but disable all of the sub options. Okay? Because disabling this didn't disable auto creation. Okay, so we're going to kill all these. And now we're going to see what happens. Here we go. And it auto creates. Okay, so what does this tell us? Let me show you guys what we've learned here. What we've learned is that if we don't want Tahoma to auto create so that we can go to a forward frame where there's other things that happen, there's other animation that goes on that we're comparing to. So we want to go forward a few frames and we want to continue to amend the one drawing and not create additional drawings, which, as you can see, of course, makes a copy. What we learned is that this is the default option to auto-create. If you disable this, it's going to still auto-create. So that doesn't work at all. If you disable all of these and disable this, then it will not auto-create. However, if you disable everything but leave this on, it will auto-create. Okay? Making sense? So you have to disable everything, all 4 of them. So this very idea of being able to click this and have everything go gray like that is what I might colloquially refer to as stupid. That's what I would call stupid. That's stupid. And if you say, well, why does it do that? The only reason I can give is the reason I gave earlier, which is that the truth is there's actually statistically no people on the entire planet that are actually trying to use Tahoma or OpenToonz for anything more than very trivial projects where they don't bump into these kinds of problems that, by the way, you will bump into all the time when you try to do something that isn't trivial. Not knocking all of your projects because it's all super cool, but what we're experiencing here is a little frustrating. Well, that's what you get for using you know, free or open source software, basically. Now, having to be fair, a lot of commercial software is just as bad, you know, so we can't just pick on the open source crowd in this regard. Not at all. It is pretty much comically dumb, though. I mean, if anyone wants to disagree, feel free to weigh in, and I'm not saying it's not. You know, you can't expect the developers to catch every bug, you know, or see every problem or predict every issue. You really can't. Okay, so anyway, at least we figured it out, and that's where you, if you guys aren't, you see this guy right here, the middle option. Okay, so now I want to call all of my viewers' attention to something right now. The guy that just commented, whose name I'm going to re-put in the comments. Okay, what this guy does all the time, I think, is what I just did, which is went through and exhaustively tried the different options to figure out really, really, truly how the heck does the software actually work. If you're not subscribed to that guy, Darren T. Anyway, now what we're going to do is I'm going to skip the cuffs for the moment, I think. And it looks like Tahoma's thinking. So I'm going to hit the R key to sample that flesh tone color. And then hit the B key. And I know this is a little hokey because I'm literally drawing over my sketch lines. The truth is, I don't care. I actually don't care. I just, I'll clean it up after the fact. So this is a little bit of a, one might say, bass-ackwards way to do it. The cleaner option would, of course, be to put the sketch on a different layer entirely, honestly, but it's all good. It's all good, people. It's all good. We're having nothing but fun painting, so let's have fun painting. I'm just going to have fun painting. In fact, I'm going to zoom in so I can see what I've really got here. But again, this too is kind of reiterating for me. The past week has been largely about figuring out the workflow process between OpenToonz, or I should say Tahoma, and Krita. And without a doubt, every time, this is just me, so your mileage may vary for sure. But when the stuff I'm doing right now, when I do it in Tahoma, it tends to get laborious. You know, there's a lot of reasons you could pick apart, but I mean, basically, it just feels laborious. Whereas when I create the actual image assets in Krita and just paste them in, and you don't even lose the benefit of all the layering system, because you can always take your character, put them in a group, and then just bake down the group, and that's what you paste into Tahoma. So without question, I've been finding that I've been testing doing more directly in Tahoma, and for the most part, it's pretty much backfired. Not because of any really big problems, but just the fact that I don't seem to enjoy it as much, and maybe don't do as good a work either, probably. But that's been my experience. Not too bad on the fill tool. I mean, their fill tool is a little bit hokey, but Krita's got its own fill tool issues as well. Sometimes it works amazing. Sometimes it works a little sketchy. It depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it, actually, which I won't bother to try to explain at the moment. Okay, let's hit the fill tool, and again, I'm hitting shift so that it does a really aggressive fill. Well, and plus, baking in shadows to this imagery, and actually having it baked in is not impossible, but it's pretty much impossible to do in a simple way here in Tahoma, whereas in Krita it would be a dawdle. So, yeah, it's just my preference. I'm allowing myself to experiment and see if, how strong is that preference there, Dave? It's turning out the preference is pretty strong. Okay, let's pull back out here, and we'll just erase. I guess that's his mouth probably, or something from another layer that I'm seeing. Okay, we got some color in there. That's good. But actually, I'm going to take my own advice here. I'm actually going to hit save all, and I'm going to go grab this from the extras folder, or from the, well, it would be the 198 folder. Okay, there's his hands. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just do the smart thing. Here's what we're going to do. Let's just drag this into Krita. We'll just open it in a new document. Okay. And let's dial it in here. It'll be a lot easier to do so. Now, as far as the way it's handling the alpha, not so sure about that, and rather than belabor it. See, all these flaws that are missing in the imagery, kind of hard to see actually in Tahoma. So Control Shift A. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through, do a quick and dirty erase, and then I'll be able to get the shadows and whatnot on this and make it look right. E key. This little bit of noise around the edges I don't really care about. I could always add a blur and hide that as well. Not a deal buster. But, and so for all my complaining, by the way, I have to really compliment Jeremy for the work he did on the cut and paste. The ability to cut and paste into Tahoma from pretty much any other program is really, really useful. Okay, so what we'll do here is, let me just do what I said. I'm going to take, let's use the magic wand, and I'm going to hit shift. So I'm selecting everything outside, and then I'm just going to apply a blur to it. That's too much, probably about 3 pixels will do the trick. Okay, now it's still selected, okay? Now what I can do is hit the curves tool and actually just tighten that right down. See that? Pretty easy, huh? Boom. Okay. So now I've got at least my starting point, and I can go in and add the outlines and all the rest. So I'm just going to do this kind of the reverse of what people might normally expect, but it'll only take a second. And I obviously made a little hiccup right there, but I'll just boom. Okay, I guess we'll maybe rotate our canvas. We'll do the hands last. And then once we get it dialed in, we'll just paste it back into Tahoma. No big deal. And by the way, we can paste it directly into the same image, in case you're wondering about that. So, meaning, in fact, it'd probably be safer to do it this way. Actually, take a selection, go Control C. Now the key here is you want to actually hit the S key to go into selection mode, so that when you paste, it's selected, and then you can move it around and get it right to where it needs to be. If you are not in selection mode, sometimes it won't paste at all, actually. But what it might do is it'll paste like over your former drawing, but it's not selected, so you have no way to actually just move it into position properly. But as you can see, that's pretty much all there is to it as far as getting a drawing lined up. So I don't really even need to resave this from Krita. Do I? No, you don't. Anybody watch the Super Bowl last night? I watched the first half and said, you know what? This is lame. It just was not that entertaining, and I'm not even sure why. I don't know if it's because can't really take the whole thing too seriously this year with. I don't really know how badly their season got, boogered by the old global pandemic. All right, so this is all about kind of feeling what I can see in my head and what I can't. Boom. So yeah, I gave up at halftime. So I'm going to bed. Forget it. Just not, well, that was not good. Just not that fun of a game. And plus the ads. I mean, why do you watch the Super Bowl if not for the ads, right? And I just, none of them were funny. I just was not digging the Super Bowl ads this year, I must say. Not digging them. Okay. Now this, there we go. There we go. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Now I can save it as a TIFF image. And theoretically, what should happen is over here, if I reopen this, so what you would do is you would save the scene, but not save all. If I save all, it's going to save this image over the one I just saved from Krita. So now that I've saved the scene, if I reopen it, you will probably discover, yep, that it's referencing the correct image. Isn't that cool? Easy peasy. All right, so select a minute. Yeah, it for sure is. And by the way, also, although it's not as powerful and flexible as the liquefy tool in Krita, the idea of using select and then doing a selection of, especially something you're going to animate, doing a selection carefully, and then being able to use control to stretch things a bit can definitely be quite a useful capability. Whoops, jump back to the wrong program. Okay, so now what we need to do is give this boy some fingernails, and then we will get the shadows in there. We don't have to really knock ourselves out too much on the I mean, this is pretty small on the screen, and it's not going to be on the screen very long. So if we want to be careful about it, we could do it this way. Let's just do a paint layer, kind of like, I'm thinking like that, and then alpha lock it, turn this way down, so we sort of get an overall shadow situation. And then we'll do specific shadows on the fingers here, and like I said, just kind of dial it in. Hope that's making sense. Okay, and here we'll put in a little bit of shadow action on the collar, or not collar, cuffs. Okay, and we'll dial that down. And if we're reasonably happy with it, we can bake it down, which means grab all these guys and hit Control E, and then go Control C. Actually, we'll select all, Control C. Come back to Tahoma, and grab the S key and hit Control V, and then just, like I said, just kind of move it into position here. Boom. Okay. Now let's see what he does. Okay, everything seems a little small to me. Maybe not, maybe not. Let's put the background in, and might be losing perspective a bit. Let's also crop it to the camera, so we're not... Yeah, it seems a little small to me. Little small. So, what we'll do is we'll go here and scale it up a bit. So, gonna hit the A key, and we're gonna scale up a little, which obviously suggests that we probably should... Yeah, that seems like that's about the right position. I wonder if we even need to mess with the... Not too bad. Save all. Okay. We've been going for an hour. Golden Slime says, what software are you using? Why, I'm using the software that is cited in the description of the video, which is Tahoma and Krita. Krita for drawing, painting, and animation. Tahoma mostly for animation, but sometimes for drawing and painting as well. So, what do we have here? We got 198. Did we already set the output settings? We did. No, we didn't. Did we? That's, yeah, that's in 196. So we got to go to 198. Save and render. Yeah, Tahoma2D, which is also, I say Tahoma, I should have said Tahoma2D. That's a good point. Okay, so let's see how it looks in the show. Oh, not bad, not bad. That worked. Alright, let's take a look at what we have going on. He invites him to speak. Asher is the voice of the people. Ah, little hiccup there. That's from the languishing old version of the shot. So Tobias, who's kind of the voice of wisdom in the courtroom, actually, or in the horribly botched version of Golek, as you can see, his characterization has evolved a bit. Okay, and actually the way I had him characterized earlier might help. So Golek would say, Majesty, I venture to say there are probably more pressing matters to attend to than Asher. Yeah, he has got sour sweetness. I am actually going to try this. I am going to take this shot, bring it over here, reverse it, because honestly, Golek should start talking before Golek should start talking before we leave the king. Majesty, I venture to say there are probably more pressing matters to attend to than Asher. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him breathe a little bit. Majesty, I venture to say there are probably more pressing matters to attend to than Asher. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can cut this and actually make it work. First of all, the whole eye blink thing is probably not needed there. But I'm going to split it. Okay, so this is a long line of dialogue. It's one of the reasons I'm going to bleed it over into the other shot. Majesty, I venture to say there are probably more pressing matters to attend to than Asher. Okay. Yeah, so he's going to say, Majesty, I venture to say there are probably more pressing matters to attend to than Asher. I like that. Syrupy sweetness. He is really, really showing his true colors today. All right, that's that. Okay, so I probably should put a mark here. Okay. Golik starts his line up to venture to say while we see Vespigi. Yeah, that would probably be prudent. Majesty. All right. And then this is where Tobias excuses himself, and it looks like previously I was using another earlier shot and it seemed to have worked, so let's see if that still is the case. Well, okay, so I don't want the bow in there. Or I mentioned to as well, Highness. And he says, with your leave. Okay, we'll cut that there. So this shot, yeah, so we'll start this here, split that, reverse it, bring this downstream. Okay. So what does... Oh, that's... I am going to say... Let me just take this out for the moment and clean the old media pool. What I need is... yeah, so he says... Okay, let's change this a little bit so that this gap doesn't last so long. Better than Asher. I have matters to attend to as well, Highness. Boom. Just... yeah. So we can actually steal this shot. Happily. I can almost guarantee that'll work. I have matters to attend to as well, Highness. It's a little long. So we'll let him start talking while we're still on Golik. He says, and I have matters to attend to as well, Highness. The king excuses him. With your leave. With your leave. Boom. Bop. Okay. Should we reverse this, actually? Maybe he says, with your leave, then bows. Maybe that makes more sense. What the heck just happened? Save our work. Okay. I don't know what just happened. Maybe this has a bunch of blank frames somewhere on the end of it. And it does. At the beginning, actually. Let's reverse. And for some reason, see, now we're getting bugginess with Vegas. For some reason, Vegas is determined not to play this sequence. That's 184F. That's going back quite a ways. Okay, we can we can creatively get around this problem by simply cutting it. So we'll cut it here. Cut it here. Put that up there. Move this. Well, this is what you do when you're editing. You do whatever's necessary to make the story work. Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, so that horrible, horrible, horrible shot of the king and Vespigi. The good news is we're getting into the next sequence, so we've got to get this one fixed up. Ooh, clean project media. Okay. Probably be a good time to check the that's a good question, Darren. Why do people ask the name of the software when it's right there? Darn if I know, man. It could be just, you know, it's kind of an opening play to be sociable, perhaps. Although that doesn't really make sense in this case, since obviously there was no follow-up or thank you or, hey, appreciate, you know, appreciate the help. Nope, there was nothing of that sort, so. Okay, so now I don't know that we don't really have a shot of, do we? I think we do, actually. I think we've got a shot of the king and Golek, and what we need to do is get Tobias splitting on out of the scene in a silhouette situation. I just don't remember if we have a two-shot of Golek. Ah, here we go. There it is. Hello? Wow. It's just that one, which would be a bit clunky to repurpose for this purpose. Kind of a lot of agonizing over some shots that blitz by pretty darn fast. This was probably done in Blender. Thanks for logging the bug, by the way. What time is it? 11:14. The day remains quite young yet. I think oh, I see. He just gives him the nod, but then he says with your leave. So there's really something. So this shot doesn't even make sense. I'm taking this out and see what happens. Okay, this would come back to the king. All right, let's make sure we don't have any hiccups here. There's a hiccup. Why do we have a hiccup? I think I know. Aha, we've got a black frame there. So, my point being, I don't think it's important that we actually show Tobias turn around and walk out of the room. Frankly, the only reason I even put this line of dialogue in there is to get rid of Tobias, because he really doesn't belong there in the next little section. Okay, I like that. I think we're okay. But tell you what, folks, I think this might be a good time to might be time to wrap. Okay, let's just do this. This at least solves the problem that we have right now. We've got to get away from Tobias. So let's take this, run it in reverse, and then we'll edit it down. We just need to get the king giving him a nod, really. I mean, come on. And why again? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and save my work and kill Vegas, reload Vegas, because it's behaving a little bit strangely. Meaning, image sequences that run in reverse should actually run, as opposed to just showing a single static image. It's a bit odd. There could be an explanation. Normally, if you're taking a shot and you flip it in reverse, the reverse version just reverses the images that are part of the clip that you're looking at, as opposed to reversing the entire image sequence, which kind of throws all your throws the acting a bit out of kilter. I don't know if that makes sense. It's probably a bit confusing, but wow, we're getting freakishly close to the end of the stuff in this episode that needs to be fixed, so that's good news. Okay, so here's the one that was at issue, and again, it does seem to be acting a little bit silly. So there's the beginning of it. The beginning, of course, now being the end, since it's being run in reverse. And we should get a little, yep, little nod here. And that's all we wanted. We just want that. I don't want that. So now I'm going to grab that and just flip it back again, so that he just gives him a nod. That's all we want. Ooh. And then can we extend that? I hope we can. Yep, we can extend it. Perfect. That was relatively easy. Relatively easy. And I like the fact that he's got a little lip sync there. With your leave. Actually, he says, with your leave, Majesty. Tobias. Okay. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. And now we are in the next section of the show. So I am going to take a break. I'm going to take a break. We're getting into the section now where we continue forward, and Vespar discovers that they're plotting to marry him off to the daughter of the merchant Carliana, which is not cool. And I'm ready for a break. So with that, I will say see you guys till next time. And as you know, there will